Good evening, baseball fans. How you doing? How you doing? How you doing? Welcome to tonight's show. We got a lot of familiar faces here in the chat. We got CWE, we got Fibs, Baseball Facts, Beat and Cozy, Focal Plays TV, Corbin, what's going on? Mariana, hello. CWE, Morgan Fay. We got Nicholas, one of our moderators here. Hello, everybody. How are we doing? We got a lot to talk about tonight, and man, oh man, it's getting spicy out there with the New York Mets and Pete Alonso. The Blue Jays could be in the mix. What's going on with Vlad Jr.? We got a little something on Alex Bregman. Roki Sasaki, what the heck is going on with that guy? Is he going to be signing tonight? I don't know. Got a little something from a Japanese outlet out there that might have a bit of an answer on when we could see Roki Sasaki signing. We're going to dive into all of it tonight. Everybody, if you can, hit that like button for me. Subscribe if you're new. We are trying to get to 50K by opening day. We're almost at 47,000 subscribers. We're getting a little closer, about 100 away. But let's get to it, everybody. Let's get to it. Pete Alonso. Man, oh man. You know, you got to be thinking of Pete Alonso right now. This guy has got to be kicking himself because at one point he had a 7-year, what was it, 156 million bucks? That's a nice chunk of change. And I'm thinking, you know, maybe he probably should have taken that a little while back because now he's arguing over 3-year deals. I mean, he even put down his own 3-year deal for the New York Mets. And they said, no, we're not feeling that. We're going to offer you this instead. But let's dive into the details here. The latest that we just got, like, what was it? I don't know, like 20 minutes ago, Pete Alonso declines a 3-year offer from the Mets. This was according to, I believe, where did that come? That came from Andy Martino. That or where was that being? I don't see where that was being reported. I know Ken Rosenthal, Will Salmon, they've been on top of a lot of things today. Joel Sherman, Dan Martin of the New York Post. They were talking about the opt-outs that the Mets supposedly were offering or maybe not offering. You know, there was a bit of confusion on that. But let's dive into a little bit more of these details here. Now, when it comes to the market, according to Will Salmon and Ken Rosenthal, Alonso's market is heating up. 3 teams, including the Blue Jays, engaged in discussions for the power-hitting first baseman. They go on to say the Mets, they want to reach, or at least when they wrote the article, they want to reach a resolution as early as possible. As of early Thursday morning, people briefed on the matter said a financial hurdle still existed between the two sides. The Mets are in active talks with other players, and it would be difficult to fit Alonso into their plans if they strike a deal in other pursuits, a person familiar with the Mets said. Now, we do know the Mets re-signed Jesse Winker. Now, when we saw the article like earlier today, and then we saw this, right, where the Mets were, you know, trying to get something done, you know, because they also got to start figuring out their own plans, you know, for 2025. You know, at some point, they got to say to Pete, listen, you know, we'd like to have you back, but, you know, this is what we're looking to do. If you can't do it, we need to start addressing the team. So, you know, and here we go, Jesse Winker heading back there. Now, obviously, Jesse Winker is not a first baseman by any means, but could this suggest, I don't know, maybe a step in that direction at least? Who knows? Now, getting back to this report here today, the Mets reportedly expect Pete Alonso to sign elsewhere. The Mets and Pete Alonso have been in a stare down for a while, but it seems the club is blinking. Andy Martino of SNY reports that they now expect him to sign elsewhere, with today's agreement with Jesse Winker part of a plan to spread money around to various alternatives. Will Salmon and Ken Rosenthal of The Athletic reported that Alonso's market was heating up, with the Blue Jays and Mets involved, as well as a third unidentified team. So, yeah, I'm going to be honest with you. If I'm looking at the tea leaves, I've been saying this all offseason. I predicted that Pete Alonso was going to go to the Nationals. I think MLB trade rumors also predicted that too. I don't know if that's going to happen at this point, but I was thinking in my head, I don't know. I have a hard time seeing David Stearns. You got to remember, David Stearns was not the one to offer Pete Alonso the deal, right? He was no, he was not the one, right? It was I'm going blank. Billy Epler was the one to offer the deal. So, but David Stearns, this is a guy, right? He came from a small market team. He is very big on looking for value. I mean, you got to remember here, when it comes to Steve Cohen, sure, he likes throwing some money down, but he also wants someone in the fold that knows how to make smart purchases at the same time. Just because Steve Cohen is one of the richest people in the world doesn't mean he's throwing money around. He's also very big on making responsible moves at the same time. And David Stearns has shown in his career that he is a guy where he looks for value anywhere he can. And, you're seeing a lot of teams out there now when it comes to guys that are over 30 years old. You're starting to see these contracts historically, they don't go very well. So I don't know, man. It's I'm just having a hard time seeing David Stearns really going that extra mile. And the fact that, we had this bit of a difference when it came to the contracts, right? Like getting here, Sherman and Martin reported that the team's offer came with an overall guarantee in the $68 to $70 million range, which Alonso found unsatisfactory. Now Rosenthal and Salmon report first, the team countered with a straight 3-year term that Alonso declined, right? So they offered just 3 years, $68 to $70 million. No opt-outs, all right? But Pete Alonso's thinking, well, if I want a 3-year deal, I want to have the opt-out in there so I can go back out onto the market next year, if that's what I'm feeling at the time. But the Mets are like, nah, if you want to come back here, we want you for 3 straight years. That way we know you're in the fold for the next few years. But Pete Alonso, he wants to have that flexibility. And I'm guessing there's probably a bit of money there too, right? Involved. It's not just the opt-out. Pete Alonso is probably looking for maybe around $25 million per year. The Mets are offering a little less than that for the AAV. I don't know, man. I just feel like the tea leaves are telling me that this could be coming to an end. And I'm going to tell you all this right now. Now, I'm not, Robbie Scoops over here. I'm not Robbie Scoops by any means. But if I'm ever told anything, when it comes to any sources that I may have, it is usually, from people that I trust very much. And, every time I've been told something, it has, come true. I don't really throw it out there by any means, but I was told today that the Blue Jays and Pete Alonso were pretty close. Now, that doesn't mean a deal was done, but it looks like there was something to this where the Blue Jays were getting pretty involved here. So that's what I was told earlier today, that the Blue Jays and Pete Alonso were close. So I don't know. I mean, things can happen in a matter of hours. So who knows? So maybe they got close. Maybe the Mets gave another phone call back. Maybe that unidentified team gave a phone call. I don't know. I'm not sure what's going on, but that's what I was told today. Now, if you're looking at it from the Blue Jays point of view, let's dive into it for the Blue Jays, right? Let's say the Mets, they have decided, all right, we're going to move on, all right? Who knows? Maybe something could happen with the Mets still, but let's say he is going to be moving on. The Blue Jays, I've been saying all offseason, I have been banging the drum that the Blue Jays make a ton of sense for a power-hitting guy, right? I've been looking at Anthony Santander. There's a lot of guys out there that I thought, hey, that would be a great fit for the Blue Jays. They need another guy in this lineup. Obviously, Vlad. Yeah, great season this past year. That guy's going to get paid a nice chunk of change. We'll talk about him in just a second. But they need something else. You have no protection in this lineup. You're hoping Bo Bichette gets back on track. You're hoping George Springer can give you a little bit more. But you need something else here. And Pete Alonso, I think, would make a lot of sense. Now, if we were to go over to this article here, Alonso's market's heating up. 3 teams, Blue Jays engaged in discussions for the power-hitting first baseman. If the Blue Jays landed Alonso, they'd still prefer. Oh my good. I was supposed to talk about Roki Sasaki to start things off. We're changing course. We're starting off with Alonso. If the Blue Jays landed Alonso, they'd still prefer to keep Vlad Jr., a person familiar with the club's thinking said. Guerrero played 12 games at third base last year, and he and Alonso could serve as the club's designated hitters. So, yeah, if you're looking to go that route, sure, right? They do need something at third base, right? That's why Alex Bregman has been brought up as a possibility there. But Vlad, he's really gotten himself, he's cut down on some weight. I feel like, at third base, well, let's see what you can do there. If they did bring in Alonso, I could see a situation where he's playing a little bit of third, playing first, and DHing, right? They kind of rotate depending on, guys that need days off and whatnot. I think that could end up being pretty valuable, especially for, Pete, where the defense at first base from a consistency point of view is not amazing by any means. Sure, he can make a good play here and there, but you're looking at Pete Alonso where you might want to see a bit more action at DH. So I could see where Vlad, give him some part-time duties at third base. Pete Alonso, he can be, part-time first base and at DH, depending on how, things go for a lineup that day. I think that could end up being a nice balance there. We'll see what ends up happening. But I think Alonso, man, makes a lot of sense. I've been saying Santander. I don't know what happened with that. I mean, did that guy just disappear off the face of the planet? I mean, we were hearing everything about Santander for the Blue Jays for a while there, and that just completely fell off a cliff. I don't know what's going on there, but listen, Pete, Blue Jays, let's see if they can get something done. That's the kind of bat I think they need for the middle of the order. Now, if we were to move on here to another, if we're looking at some other teams that really could use someone like Pete Alonso. I mean, if you're looking at a 3-year deal, I do wonder if maybe that third unidentified team could be the Mariners. I don't know what's going on with Seattle at this point, but I would imagine if there's ever a time Seattle would like to spend some money, it would be on a guy that is right now willing to take a 3-year deal. Could Seattle throw an opt-out deal at Pete Alonso? I think that could make a ton of sense, man. I would love for the Mariners to get involved, right? And baseball AI. Let's talk about the Angels next, right? The Angels have been reported as a team that's made some contact with Alonso. Could it be them? You could move Nolan Schanuel out to left field. The problem here is you would have to figure out something with Taylor Ward. He has popped up on the rumor mill, but again, you're kind of looking at something there. Got to remember, if you bring in a guy and then all of a sudden, you got a bit of a log jam, well, if you're the Angels, you are losing a little bit of leverage at that point because, you'd rather get a deal done first and then figure out the next part. So, we'll see. Maybe the Angels could be a possibility. I still think right now the Mariners are the better fit. It's just a matter of would they want to spend the money. You could look at the Nationals. Like I said, they were a team that seemed to make some sense for Alonso going into the offseason. They did bring in Nate Lowe. They brought in Josh Bell. I don't know. They seem pretty set at this point. Could Josh Bell be, a bat off the bench? Probably not. I don't know. But who knows? Maybe the Nationals. Probably not the Nationals, to be completely honest. But that's kind of what I'm thinking here. It's probably either the Blue Jays. Who knows what Seattle, how involved, are they even involved? I don't know. But we've seen even the Red Sox be involved at times. But again, what happens with Casas? I don't know about that. So who knows who the identified team is, but Pete Alonso is, something's cooking. Something is cooking. And I would expect we're going to hear something pretty soon here. We're going to hear something pretty soon. Now, moving on. Let's move on here. Sorry, I'm getting distracted by one little thing over here. I don't know what is going on. I forgot to turn the TV off, and it's getting all loud over here. My goodness. Moving on now. We talked about Vlad, right? Now, we do have something on Vlad. And, the talk of the town when it comes to Vlad Jr. and the Blue Jays is, are they going to be able to get an extension done, right? He went on a podcast recently, saying, yeah, no, need them to kind of offer me a little bit more money. There's been reports from Bob Nightingale saying that, they're $100 million apart. Friends of his, he's heard, Bob Nightingale's heard that he would love to go to the Red Sox next offseason. But right now, it looks like the Blue Jays are still in the mix for an extension. Now, the latest on this, the Blue Jays have not spoken to Guerrero's camp about an extension since before Christmas. I mean, I thought maybe they had been talking here over the last week, but I mean, that's kind of a long time at this point. It's over a couple of weeks. So I don't know what's going on there. However, those talks are expected to accelerate before Guerrero's self-imposed deadline of February 17th, the day before the Jays hold their first full workout for pitchers and position players. Well, you got a month. I guess anything can happen, but like I said, the last time we had heard about the money, about $100 million apart. Are they going to be able to make up that gap? I don't know, man. They go on to say here, Guerrero is scheduled to hit the open market, entering his age 27 season, 1 year older than Juan Soto. First basemen are generally not paid as well as outfielders, but Guerrero's relative youth is setting him up for a monster deal, either from the Jays or another club. Now, I've talked about this. I believe I made a post on Twitter maybe a few weeks ago. I put something down like 12 years, I think $460 million. I could see something like that, but he's looking for at least 450. So the one sticking point I could see for Vlad in negotiations with teams would be the years, right? First baseman, yes, he has dropped a lot of weight. You just wonder, is he gonna add on some weight throughout the contract? What could end up happening there? So maybe teams worry about the durability moving forward. We'll see on that, but that's where I wonder how far teams would be willing to go. Juan Soto's different, right? 15-year Juan Soto. Yeah, that might even still seem kind of long, but for Vlad, where you're looking at a first baseman, I don't know, bigger guy. Who knows? I would imagine he still gets at least a 10-year deal. I would be surprised if he got more than 12. I would probably say more closer to 10. That's what I'm thinking here. Now, they do mention the Pete Alonso thing here. Jays are in discussions for Pete Alonso. The addition of Alonso would not signal a willingness to trade Guerrero, according to a source briefed on the discussions. The Jays are trying to win, and their more likely plan would be to install Alonso at first, move Guerrero to third, where he appeared in 12 games. Designated hitters, we already read that. I already told you, maybe a rotation of sorts. Now, they do mention this. They do mention this part. Let's see, where... I swear, when I'm getting ready for the shows, man, I read this stuff and then I lose where it is. Where did it go? I'm losing my mind right now. Okay, it's down here. Finally, while a trade of Guerrero with or without Alonso is not out of the question, Toronto's response to teams that have merely checked in on Guerrero's availability in a deal reflects their strong desire to keep him. To even think about trading Guerrero, a package would have to include major leaguers and top prospects and exceed the value the Padres received from the Yankees for Juan Soto, league sources said. Now, here was the trade, in case you forgot what that looked like from the Padres and the Yankees. Going to the Yankees, you had Juan Soto, Trent Grisham. Now, if you look at the value here, the median value of Juan Soto, you were looking right around $24 million on the median end. Now, it was an overpay, which no surprise there, right? Listen, just because you put something into the good old trade simulator doesn't always mean it's going to line up, right? Values are only half the battle. Real life circumstances are the other half of the battle. Now, if you were to think about a possible trade of Vlad Jr., right? Well, like I said, Juan Soto, he was right around $24 million on the median value. If you go over to Vlad's current value, which in case you don't know how that's worked, right? It's your field value, your projected field value minus your salary. Vlad Jr. is going to be making around $28 million this coming year. He is projected to be, I believe his projections are right around a 5. Looking at that, I think he right around a 5 F war. Yeah, 5 F war. So that's, you're looking at one win is anywhere, could be on average from 8 to 9 million. So if you just look at it, 8 million, that's worth $40 million, right? But, again, that's just average. When it comes to a player like Vlad, man, he's an impactful bat. So I could see, the cost per win being even a little bit more for him. So right now they're looking at a median value of around 21 million. A little bit lower than what we saw with Soto. But again, wouldn't be surprised if there was a trade where you saw kind of something like this. All right. And for the Padres, ended up kind of working out for him. Michael King ended up being very solid for them. Now, do I think Vlad is going to end up getting traded? I think it's... Here's the thing. The Blue Jays say they want to win. Well, the Padres just showed that you don't need Juan Soto to win, right? They got as far as any other team in the National League against the Dodgers, right? And they did that without Juan Soto. So, the Blue Jays, sure, Vlad, yeah, I mean, it's a little different there, right? Because the Padres, they had other bats in that lineup. Now with the Blue Jays, yeah, if you lose Vlad Jr., then your lineup's taking a big hit. But if you could get a deal where if you got a major league player under control that can still be impactful towards your lineup, and you bring in Pete Alonso, well, then maybe that lineup could end up, getting by, right? Maybe they could do enough. And, they got some good pitching there. They brought in Hoffman. Hopefully he stays healthy. So could there be a situation where the Blue Jays, even if they deal Vlad, they could still possibly end up being a good team? Maybe. It would definitely hurt the Blue Jays to move him. But if they're not going to be able to sign him long term, if they can't come to an agreement, then, you go back to when the Red Sox traded Mookie Betts. Yeah, that's kind of taken a little bit to get everything, up to speed in Boston. But same thing happened with Mookie. Couldn't agree on an extension. They ended up trading him, right? They got a major league ready guy in Alex Verdugo. Jeter Downs was a top prospect at the time. Connor Wong, catching prospect. They needed some of that in their system at the time. So that was the deal they agreed upon. You look at, like I said, Juan Soto. They got back a major league ready guy with Michael King. They got some younger pieces to go along with him. They got Drew Thorpe, who they ended up swinging in a deal for Dylan Cease. And then you take a look at the Kyle Tucker trade this offseason. Ended up, Isaac Paredes was the main cost-controlled piece to go back. And then you also included, a guy like Cam Smith, who they just drafted this past year, along with Hayden Wesneski. So I think you could maybe do a similar deal out there. Now, if I'm looking at some teams, if the Blue Jays do end up, deciding to move him, I think really the only way they move him is if they sign Alonso. That's the only way. And then you look at the extension, see if you can get something done. If not, then you think to yourself, well, okay, we got Alonso. Let's try and bring in some other guys. Now, if I'm looking at some teams, I did a video on this today. So if you want to go watch that, a bit of a shorter form video, I did do that. So go check. But I did mention the San Francisco Giants. I think the Giants would be an awesome fit. I would love this, right? You just brought in Willy Adames. That's going to be a nice bat. Matt Chapman had himself a great year. Getting one more bopper in this lineup, I think, would go a long way. It would give them a very competitive lineup in the National League. Would love that. Absolutely would love that. Maybe the Mariners, right? Just talked about them. Who knows? Maybe they could be the mystery team for Pete Alonso. Would love for the Mariners to go out there and get someone. Now, with Pete Alonso, you'd be getting him probably, again, if he's looking for an opt-out, then, yeah, Pete Alonso would end up being cheaper for 1 year than Vlad Jr., who's going to be close to $30 million. The problem with the Mariners is they've been looking to clear payroll. So I don't know. Could you maybe get creative in a deal? You send back Luis Castillo, which can bolster the rotation for the Blue Jays. Maybe send back some other younger guys, someone like Tyler Locklear, who could end up being, a guy that could be a bopper over the next few years for you, possibly. He's pretty close to Major League ready at this point. Maybe do something like that, throw in a couple more guys. Maybe the Mariners can get something done. I don't know. Jerry DiPoto, he's made a lot of trades in the past. I've mentioned the Angels here. I just touched on them earlier with Pete Alonso. Maybe they could do the same thing, swing a deal. Maybe they can even do some kind of like a deal where, Taylor Ward, they could send him back to the Blue Jays. He's got a couple more years of control. A guy that, could probably give you around 25 home runs. Maybe Ward, send him back, a few other pieces along with him. Maybe the Angels could be a decent landing spot. That's where his dad played. Maybe there could be something there. If we're looking at some other teams possibly, that could use like a first baseman. I mean, you're kind of running. When you think about the Yankees for Juan Soto, that was a bit different, right? Because the Yankees, they were looking to make a run to the World Series, which they ended up accomplishing. It didn't get the job done, but they were in a unique circumstance where, they could bring in Soto, maybe they could try, and obviously they came up short to the Mets, but in the end, ended up not bringing him back. But, they knew they would have a chance at least. So, the Yankees, they made a run of the World Series. That's the kind of team where, same thing. Like when, with the Dodgers, right? You brought in Mookie Betts. They ended up getting the extension worked out. But, 2020, I know we all like to kind of forget about that year. But in the end, ended up paying off for the Dodgers. They ended up winning the World Series with Mookie. So, and obviously another one since then. But, if I'm thinking of some teams right now, there's not like a lot of like, not a lot when it comes to a team that could add Vlad, except, again, we're waiting to see what happens with Alonso here, but the New York Mets, all right? I mean, again, getting back to the Soto trade, you had to give up a lot, right? The Yankees, giving up Michael King, giving up a lot of guys there. Would the Mets want to give up that much for possibly 1 year of Vlad? I wonder if maybe they made a phone call and, to the agent and say, hey, think we can work out an extension? Maybe the Mets could do that. I have a hard time seeing David Stearns unloading for 1 year of Vlad, because they've been trying to rebuild that farm over the last few years here. It's looking a lot better than it did a few years ago. I don't know if David Stearns would want to empty that. I think the fit makes a lot of sense. I love the idea of it, but I wonder if the Mets would depend. Who knows? Would they even want it? I don't know. Would they want to do an extent? I would imagine they'd be open to a long-term deal if they ended up acquiring him, and I'm sure Vlad would be open to it, playing with Juan Soto for years to come. I mean, that would be great if you could do that. But, will David Stearns want to go the extra mile in unloading there? Potential, top prospects. One idea that I came up with, maybe you could send back Brett Beatty in a deal. Obviously, there would have to be a lot more with Brett Beatty, but that's just a guy that you could include. A change of scenery for him could make some sense. Throwing a couple. They got a few prospects, like Ryan Clifford, Drew Gilbert. I don't think they would send back Luis Angel Acuna, but some guys that have some upside there, some high ceiling that you could send back. Maybe someone like Jet Williams. The Mets, it all comes down to, first off, what happens with Alonso, and would Stearns want to go the extra mile, right? I don't think my Red Sox end up doing anything here. You got Casas, right? And he's been in the rumor mill a lot, but I don't know. It just that feels like kind of getting back to the Mets point that I made. I think the only way the Red Sox would make something happen is if you could do a long-term extension. That's the only way I could see it happening. And then obviously you could send Casas back in that deal. Obviously he has a lot of control left, 4 years, high upside there. Vlad, listen, I like Casas. I like the bat, but Vlad, I mean, my goodness, like that right-handed power bat at Fenway Park, no disrespect to Tristan Casas, but like Vlad at Fenway Park, I mean, are you kidding me? I mean, for crying out loud, that'd be ridiculous. I'm just saying. So, and obviously, you got the Dominican connections there, right? Pedro Martinez, very close to David Ortiz, very close to Vlad Jr. I think would be the closest thing since Manny Ramirez for the Red Sox. I'm not saying he would end up being better than Manny, but that would be the closest thing, in my opinion, since Manny. So, anyway, we'll have to keep our eyes on this. They could very well come up with an agreement for an extension. Who knows? It might not seem very positive right now, but maybe over time they could figure something out. But the last we did here is they were far apart. So, I don't know. Maybe they could close the gap. We'll see. But speaking of a guy looking for a deal out there, we got a little Alex Bregman. What is going on here with Alex Bregman? Well, I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on, but Bregman is not looking for a short-term deal. It was kind of looking like you were getting towards the Matt Chapman territory from last year, where ended up waiting into spring training, got the 3-year deal with the opt-out. Ended up working out for Chapman, got the extension with the Giants, and had himself a great year. With Bregman, it looks like he's not really looking to do that. I don't know. I don't remember if there was a report last year that Matt Chapman didn't want to do that either, but is Bregman going to have a choice at this point? I don't know, man. I mean, you had the deal with the Astros, you had the 6-year deal and the $150 million. Didn't want to do it. And in the end, it looks like that's not really working out for him. I mean, supposedly the Tigers have some kind of an offer out there. It has been speculated it could be around 4 to 5 years. Who knows exactly? There hasn't been, an official report like we've been getting with Pete Alonso. I don't know. I don't know what's going on there. But if he's looking for, 6 years, at least, that's what the Astros offered. I would think, probably 6 years and more money than what the Astros offered, probably get something done. But is there a team that's willing to do that right now? It looks like teams have been not blinking with Bregman at all, right? Obviously, we've heard the Red Sox, they seem to be the one team that just keeps coming up here where who knows if they even have an offer. Jared Carrabis on Section 10, he mentioned again on the last episode that there's still not even an offer on the table, or at least he hinted at it. But then you have Carlos Baerga saying on his podcast that the Red Sox do have an offer on the table for 3 years with an option. Baerga has been hit or miss. I know Jared is obviously very close when it comes to Red Sox people. So I don't know what's going on there. I mean, who knows if there's an offer on the table at this point. But the Red Sox, where, they're kind of hanging back and waiting, but, the Tigers, I mean, if the Tigers are a team that is also, a destination that Bregman is considering, I mean, it depends on what their offer is. It's obviously not an offer that Bregman likes. So that's the one thing that I think with the Red Sox, they're thinking they don't have to push further. Because the Tigers, they seem to be leading the pack when it comes to some kind of a deal. Now, Baerga said that the Blue Jays offered Bregman a big deal, but he said on his episode that he didn't want to go there, right? Or he turned it down. Whatever that deal was, I'm not sure. He said it was a big offer. So, unless I missed another part, that there was something from the Blue Jays supposedly. So, if he's looking for a long-term deal and the Tigers aren't blinking, the Red Sox aren't blinking, he doesn't want to go to the Blue Jays, I guess, especially if they get Alonso. I mean, that could be another sign, too, that maybe the Blue Jays did offer Bregman something, but that doesn't seem to be in the cards, so they're making a big push here for Alonso. So, if he's going to look for a long-term deal, I mean, what team out there could give him a long-term deal? Could you see a team emerge for Bregman at some point? And also, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention also the Chicago Cubs had been casually talking about a short-term deal. But if he doesn't want a short-term deal, then I don't know if the Cubs are really going to be a strong contender here. And they already have, something going on here with the roster. You got Matt Shaw projected to be at third base. He does have to win the job, but this guy has been balling out ever since he started his career in Major League Baseball or in professional baseball. Nico Horner, he's your second baseman. So what happens there, right? I mean, do you stash Matt Shaw, in the minors, and he's not going to be a bench guy. You want to get him every day at bats. So I don't know if really there's a fit here for the Cubs. So if I'm looking at some other teams, that maybe, probably not, but that could emerge as a destination. I mean, why not the Nationals here? I mean, I guess the word out there is the Nationals don't really want to spend money. But, I mean, listen, if you're thinking about it from the Nationals' point of view, I mean, you got a young team here. You just brought in Nate Lowe. I mean, that would be awesome to me. You bring in Bregman, who's won a couple of World Series with Dylan Cruz and James Wood and C.J. Abrams. I mean, Bregman, in my opinion, would be a great fit for the Nationals long term. I think for the Nationals, again, seems like they're not really willing to put the foot on the pedal when it comes to spending the big bucks. But I don't know, man. I just see a nice fit there. Maybe the Nationals also think they want to, be stronger contenders until they make a big investment. I mean, they were looking pretty decent this year. They were in the running for a wild card spot at one point, and then they faded. But then also people are going to bring up Brady House. In my opinion, it's kind of like, what Red Sox fans talk about, with Bregman. If he went to Boston, he would play second base probably, or at least at some point, depending on what else happens, he could end up sliding over to third. If someone gets hurt, let's say Casas gets moved, or if he gets hurt, then, then you could figure out the infield at that point. Rafi maybe plays first or whatever. I don't know. The point is that Bregman in Boston, one thing people bring up is that if he played second base, that could block someone like Christian Campbell. Also Vaughn Grissom is there too. When it comes to the Nationals, you got Brady House at third base. But in my opinion, I say just figure that out when he's ready. Josh Bell, you brought him in on a 1-year deal. Someone could go DH. You know what I mean? Like, you just figure out Brady House when he's ready. I don't know, man. I would like for the Nationals to do something here. I think it would make a lot of sense. Be with that organization for the, let's say it's a 6-year deal. But then again, you look at it from the point of view too, where teams, when they make a big investment on a player, they want that first year of the deal to be as worthwhile as possible, right? If you bring in Bregman here for the Nationals, that first year, right, historically, the first few years of the deal are going to be the best years. So for the Nationals, do they feel like they're, a very strong contender at this point? That could be where the Nationals are like, probably not. Well, I think it would be a great fit. Whatever. I mean, I think it'd be a good fit. The Mariners, right? Keep bringing up the Mariners. If there was ever a time, man, to make an addition here, I mean, I know you just brought in Donovan Solano, but whatever. You put him at second base. Dylan Moore, he's a utility guy. Bregman's your third baseman. I'm so tired of the Mariners not spending money. I mean, they won't, but I mean, if there's ever a time, if there is a team that could make a deep postseason run, I mean, like bring in Bregman, and your lineup is looking pretty decent at that point, right? Julio Rodriguez, Bregman, J.P. Crawford, hopefully get more out of him, Randy Rosarena. You got a pretty decent lineup at that point, and you got a winner in Seattle. That's another thing, too. If you're looking at the intangibles, I think a winner like Bregman could make a ton of sense for Seattle. A team where, they're trying to just have success for getting to the postseason, right? They did it a couple years ago, but getting past, that hump. You got pitching, a bullpen. I mean, man, the Mariners make a ton of sense for me. I would love that. If I'm looking at, the Yankees, I don't know, the Yankees, they've been looking at cheap options. Jorge Polanco, maybe Yohan Moncada possibly. I don't know, but the Yankees, who knows? Maybe Brian Cashman wakes up one day and says, all right, let's go do Bregman. Right? I don't know. Probably not. But in the end, will Bregman end up getting a long-term deal? I would like to think if he doesn't want a short-term deal, wants a long-term deal, but teams don't want to give him that, Maybe you end up somewhere in the middle. Maybe you do a 4-year deal with an option, something like that. I could see that. So we got a super chat coming in. $5 super chat. Hey, Robbie, is there any reason to believe that report that Roki is going to sign tonight? Is that newspaper reliable? Thanks for the show. Thank you, Pat, for the amazing segue, right? We were going to start that off, but I was too hot on the Pete Alonso stuff. And yeah, we got to get to the Roki stuff. Let's dive into this one. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. If you were to ask my honest answer on this, I don't know. I don't know if it's reliable. I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but I don't know. I mean, they got a little newspaper article here. I mean, I don't know. I mean, if you're looking at it from the point of view, okay, let's look at the, they got, 4.5K followers. I mean, even my dopey self has more than that. That's not me tooting my horn. I'm just saying it's like you'd kind of, if you're a news outlet, I feel like you would want a bit more there. Maybe that doesn't mean anything. I don't know. I'm not trying to toot my horn with that. I'm just saying usually a bigger news outlet tends to have a bigger following. So that is something, if you look at the translation. This is the Tokyo sales account for Sponichi. We would distribute this Sponichi paper. Oh, so is this wait, hold on. Is this the actual account? Sponichi? I guess that's just the account that issues. I don't know. I'm not sure. Again, I don't know. I can't tell you if it's reliable or not. But what they are saying, it has been reported in today's Tokyo edition, dated the 17th, right? Because they're ahead. That Roki Sasaki, who is aiming to transfer to the majors via the posting system, will decide on his transfer destination on the 16th, which is the 17th in Japan time. Well, it is the 16th. Now, if you go, I can't remember for the life of me what outlet had this. I don't remember if it was The Athletic or if it was Bob Nightingale or Pass. I can't remember who put this out there, but they said you are probably looking at Roki making an announcement a couple of days after the international signing period begins. So it's kind of looking like we're heading that way. Obviously, we have the finalists. We have the Dodgers, the Padres, the Blue Jays. We had Tyler Glasnow going on Foul Territory today, talking about the pitch that he made, saying, hey, if you want to go to the team that's going to give you the best shot at developing, it's the Dodgers, right? I don't know, man. We've already talked about this at length, but the one thing that they put here that I thought was interesting was the Dodger logo. So I'm not sure what's up with that. Now, if we were to look at, go to this profile. Now, I think Cody, who is co-host of the Bleed Los podcast, he put something here. So he's been on top of this. He says that translation wasn't 100% correct. Said decision could be today, not will be. But again, we've kind of, like I said, we've seen that. Again, I can't remember who said that, but it said probably a couple of days after the signing period starts. I wouldn't be surprised at all if he already has his decision, but they're trying to work out details, right? Trying to work out the contract. I feel like he said, so Jacob Brownson, he put here today. Again, he put the article. I feel like, I don't know if there's anything specific on the Dodgers necessarily, but I mean, I find it interesting that you got the Dodgers, logos on here, but then it has has the Blue Jays, has the Padres, has the Dodgers over here. So I don't know. Again, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Roki Sasaki ends up signing tonight at some point. And I see you in the chat, Chris, it's probably going to be announced at like 1 or 2 a.m. If he goes to a West Coast team like the Padres or Dodgers, I mean, they're 3 hours behind East Coast. So I wouldn't be surprised if if he ends up going to the Dodgers. I wouldn't be surprised at all if we had like a midnight sort of a breaking from passing at midnight. You know, that's what I think. In a way, I kind of hope it's the Blue Jays, only because I would rather not go live at 2 a.m. That would be nice. So please, Roki, can you go to the Blue Jays, because I don't want to go live that late. We went live that late for Corbin Burns. Ugh, man, I was so tired the next day. So yeah, Roki, go to the Blue Jays. Come on, help my sleep out a little bit over here. But that is the latest. I mean, again, I know that's not really a whole lot, but I think at the very least we are getting pretty close to a Roki decision. But everyone, I'm going to wrap it up there. We had a great outing here for tonight. A lot of people coming in here in the chat. We had over 600 people pretty much the entire time, so I want to thank you for that. We're almost at 200 likes. If you can hit that like button for me, that would be amazing. If anything does happen for the rest of the night, I will be here. If anything breaks, whether if it's Alonso, Roki, who knows, maybe Bregman, for crying out loud, probably not. But if anything happens, I'll be here. But again, if you can on that way out, hit that like button for me, and do subscribe if you are new. We're trying to get to 50K by opening day. I might even do some kind of a giveaway at some point. If we can get to 50K, I mean, I will definitely think about doing a giveaway of some kind. I think that would be pretty fun. So, everyone, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thanks for joining tonight. A lot of great conversation here in the chat. You guys are very active tonight. That is awesome. Love that. Thank you for the super chats here tonight. That is very much appreciated. But everyone, go check out the video that I also posted a little earlier. I came up with some Vlad Jr. trade ideas. Go watch that. Give me your thoughts in the comments. Let me know what you think. But everyone, I'm out of here. Go have yourself a good rest of your night, and I'll talk to you next time.